There's a quiet moment that happens in the life of a woman who begins to live alone. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. But it changes everything. She wakes up one morning and realizes, maybe for the first time, that the silence in her home isn't emptiness. It's peace. That the decisions she makes, the way she folds the sheets or brews her coffee, belong to her. No one else. No explanations. No compromises. Just her rhythm, her breath, her life. But not everyone sees it that way. The world has opinions about a woman who lives alone, especially if she's lived without a man for too long. She's called strong, but secretly labeled lonely. Admired for her independence, but quietly pitied behind closed doors. Some even assume there's something wrong with her, that maybe no one chose her. Or worse, that maybe she chose to walk away from love, marriage, and the blueprint society hands out like a rule book. But what if that story is broken? What if the woman who lives alone isn't missing anything at all? Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, believed something radical, that every woman has two forces within her, the nurturing, relational side, and the deep, untamed self, the side that seeks wholeness, meaning, and inner truth. And sometimes, to awaken that deeper self, a woman must walk alone. But let me tell you something, this isn't a video about loneliness. This is about liberation. This is about the quiet revolution of women who are rewriting what it means to belong to themselves first. This is about the spiritual and psychological rebirth that happens when a woman says, "I'd rather be alone than half alive. I'd rather walk in silence than shrink in someone else's shadow." And it's not just modern. It's ancient. It's archetypal. Jung called it the journey of individuation, a sacred path of becoming whole. And in that journey, aloneness isn't punishment. It's the cocoon where the butterfly is born. So if you're watching this, and you felt like you don't fit into the mold, if you've built a home with no partner, but so much peace, if you've ever questioned whether your choice to walk alone means something's wrong with you, this message is for you. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too difficult, too independent, or too much. You are becoming. This video will explore the deep psychological truths about women who live alone, and why it's one of the most profound stages of transformation a woman can walk through. We'll explore the emotional patterns, the subconscious shifts, and the symbolic power of this lifestyle from Jung's lens to lived experience. And by the end, you won't just understand it, you'll own it. Because you are not just living alone. You are living on purpose. Are you ready to understand the real reason behind it all? Then let's keep going. To understand the deeper truth of why some women live alone and thrive in that choice, we must go beneath the surface of what society assumes and into what the soul knows. Carl Jung believed that the human psyche is a living organism. It evolves, transforms, and reorganizes itself around one central goal: wholeness. And for many women, the journey to wholeness often begins the moment they step away from relationships that do not reflect their truth. When a woman chooses solitude not as an escape, but as a home, she isn't isolating herself. She's integrating herself. She is slowly unraveling years of conditioning. The voices that told her a woman is only complete when she's chosen. The whispers that said aging alone is failure. The pressures that taught her to tie her worth to someone else's love. But solitude, when consciously chosen, becomes a mirror. It reflects the inner patterns she was too distracted to see while navigating the dance of approval, relationships, and expectation. And here's what she begins to realize in that mirror. She was never truly alone, just unheard, just unseen, just unexpressed. Now she sees herself. Jung would call this the moment when the shadow begins to dissolve. The shadow is everything we were told not to be. The parts of us we locked away to fit in, to be the good daughter, the supportive wife, the easy woman. It holds our anger, our sexuality, our ambition, our wildness, our heartbreak. And in solitude, the shadow starts to speak. At first, it may sound like fear. Why am I alone? What if no one ever chooses me? Am I unlovable? But if she listens more closely, beneath the fear is something sacred. A voice saying, "This is your life, unfiltered, uncontrolled, unshaped by another's needs. Now, who are you?" This is the turning point where loneliness becomes something else entirely. It becomes sovereignty. Because the truth is, loneliness and solitude are not the same. Loneliness is what you feel when you're disconnected from your soul. Solitude is what you feel when you finally reconnect to it. And in that reconnection, everything begins to shift. Suddenly, she no longer needs someone to call her beautiful because she sees it in the mirror. She doesn't need constant validation because her peace speaks louder than praise. She doesn't fear aging alone because she knows she is growing into herself. And yes, she may still long for love. That desire is not wrong or shameful, but it's no longer need. It's no longer desperation or self-abandonment. It becomes preference, not survival, because she has become whole unto herself. Jung believed that each of us contains both masculine and feminine energies, the animus and the anima. In women, the animus is the inner masculine, the structure, the discipline, the clarity, the vision. When a woman lives alone, she begins to develop this inner masculine. She doesn't rely on someone else to provide order, protection, or decision-making. She learns to trust her own discernment, to organize her own life, to pursue her own dreams. And something miraculous happens when the feminine and the masculine within her begin to unite. She doesn't become cold or hardened. She becomes softer because she finally feels safe inside herself. She becomes clearer because she no longer needs to shape-shift. She becomes more open to love because she's no longer looking for rescue, she's looking for resonance. And the world starts to look different through these eyes. She sees other women still stuck in survival mode, stuck in people-pleasing and perfectionism. She sees it because she was once there too. But now, she's building something sacred, a life that reflects her truth. Not her mother's, not the church's, not the culture's. Hers. And it's not always easy. There are nights when the silence echoes too loudly. There are holidays when the bed feels too big. There are moments when fear sneaks in, asking, "Did I choose the wrong path?" But those moments pass. Because she remembers, she didn't choose solitude out of fear. She chose it because she was ready to meet herself. And what she finds there is powerful. Jung would say that she has entered the phase of the individuated woman, a woman who no longer lives to please others, but to embody her essence. She might write books. She might paint, teach, travel, heal. She might adopt a child or a dog or a dream she once gave up. But whatever she does, it's done from fullness, not lack. From wholeness, not wound. She is no longer a half waiting for another half. She is a whole soul walking forward in freedom. There comes a moment, often quiet, often unnoticed, when a woman who lives alone stops questioning if she's missing something and begins to realize she's finally becoming someone. Not the version of herself she created to be loved. Not the version she molded to fit into roles or relationships, but the version that has been waiting within her like a seed beneath the winter frost. It usually happens in small ways. Maybe it's when she moves furniture in her living room, just because she feels like it, without asking anyone. Maybe it's when she walks past a mirror and notices her smile, not for beauty, but for peace. Maybe it's when she eats dinner alone and doesn't feel sad. She feels sacred. Because the truth is, something is being born inside her. Something Jung would call the self, the full integration of all her layers. The lover, the mother, the rebel, the healer, the artist, the child, the queen. And that birth, it doesn't always feel beautiful. Sometimes it feels like grief. Because as she steps into who she truly is, she must bury the versions of herself she no longer needs. The woman who needed to be rescued. The girl who dimmed her light to be liked. The partner who made herself small so someone else could feel big. She says goodbye to them. Not in bitterness, not in shame, but in deep, soul-level gratitude. They got her here. They carried her through the chapters when she didn't yet know her worth. They helped her survive the moments when silence felt like a punishment, not a prayer. But now, she doesn't need to survive. She's learning how to thrive. She's no longer performing love, she's living it. She's no longer waiting to be chosen. She's choosing herself over and over again. This is the moment when her solitude becomes her sanctuary. No longer a space she fears. It's a space she fills with music, with joy, with ritual, with purpose. She starts to dance in her kitchen. She starts to speak to God again, not through borrowed prayers, but through her own breath. She begins to write letters to her future self, filled with promises she finally intends to keep. Because now she can hear herself. Do you understand how powerful that is? In a world that teaches women to be everything for everyone, to prioritize relationships above all else, to sacrifice themselves in service of belonging, the woman who lives alone and listens to her own voice is dangerous. Not because she's bitter, not because she's broken, but because she is free. She is no longer waiting to be saved. She is becoming the heroine of her own myth. This is what Carl Jung spoke of when he described the hero's journey, the soul's path toward integration, meaning, and self-realization. And while he often framed it in masculine terms, it is just as true, perhaps even more profound, when walked by a woman. Especially a woman who chooses herself. In ancient stories, we often hear of women who go into the wilderness, the desert, the cave, alone. These were not stories of punishment. They were initiations. Rites of passage that stripped away distraction, so truth could rise. These women would return not as wives or mothers or helpers, but as oracles, priestesses, warriors, visionaries. Solitude shaped them, and now it shapes you. Because this time alone isn't just about getting over heartbreak or living single. It's about discovering that you were never half of anything. You were whole. You just forgot. Now you remember. And maybe for the first time, you're creating a life that matches that truth. Not just surviving the aloneness, but honoring it. You read books that feed you. You rest when your body asks. You stop saying yes when you mean no. You start dressing not to impress, but to express. You light candles not for romance, but for reverence. You reclaim your soul, one ordinary, sacred, solo moment at a time. And that, my sister, is not a tragedy. It's a transformation. The woman who lives alone is not left behind. She is being led forward. Led toward healing, led toward clarity, led toward the version of herself she was always meant to become, but couldn't while she was lost in someone else's reflection. And if love comes, beautiful. But if it doesn't, you are still whole. Because the love you've built inside this quiet space, the love you've learned to give yourself, The love you now feel when you walk through your own door and smile at the stillness? That is the kind of love that never leaves. Now that we've seen what change looks like, how do you create it in your own life? Let's move forward. So now that you've seen the truth, what do you do with it? What does it actually look like to embody this inner freedom, to live alone, and not just survive it, but thrive in it? How do you take the emotional shift you've felt and root it into your daily life? It begins with one powerful decision: to treat your solitude not as a waiting room, but as a sacred home. You're not on pause. You're not in between relationships. You're not less than or missing anything. You're living your life, and it deserves to be lived well. Carl Jung believed that healing happens through awareness. When the unconscious becomes conscious, transformation begins. And solitude is one of the best environments for this kind of awakening. Why? Because no one's around to interrupt the signal from your soul. But the mistake many people make, especially in the beginning, is this: they try to fill the space too fast. They distract themselves with noise, endless to-do lists, online scrolling, background TV, constant texting, anything to avoid feeling that silence. But you don't need more noise. You need to learn how to listen again. So here's your first real-world step. 1. Create rituals, not routines. Living alone gives you the gift of choice. Use it to build rituals that anchor you, not just habits that pass the time. Light a candle in the morning, not just because it smells good, but because it signals to your nervous system that this day is yours. Make your coffee slowly. Breathe while it brews. Journal before you open your phone. Ask yourself, how do I feel today? What do I need? These aren't just acts of wellness. They're acts of rebellion in a world that teaches women to check on everyone else before they check on themselves. 2. Practice emotional honesty. There will be moments when living alone feels heavy. That's normal. Let yourself feel it. Loneliness isn't weakness. It's a sign you're alive. But don't fall into the trap of thinking it means you're missing something or that you're broken. Instead, ask your emotions what they're trying to tell you. Loneliness might mean you're craving connection, so call a friend, join a community, or go where your people gather. Restlessness might mean you're ready to explore something new, so take yourself out, sign up for a class, or start a creative project. Sadness might be your inner child asking for attention, so write her a letter. Hold her gently. Tell her she is safe with you now. Emotional honesty is not indulgent, it's intelligent. Jung would call it the process of integrating the shadow, of allowing all parts of yourself a seat at the table. 3. Build your inner dialogue. When you live alone, your inner voice becomes your most constant companion. So make her kind, make her wise, make her someone you'd actually want to live with. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means speaking to yourself the way you would speak to a dear friend, gently, with curiosity, not condemnation. When you make a mistake, I'm human. I'll learn. When you feel insecure, it's okay to have these feelings. I'm still enough. When you feel proud, yes, I did that. I'm growing. The more often you speak to yourself with compassion, the more natural it becomes. Over time, it rewires your nervous system. It changes your baseline of self-worth. 4. Reclaim your body, your space, your time. Living alone is not just a mental state, it's a physical reclamation. This is your space. Every inch of it should reflect your soul. Hang art that inspires you. Leave notes to yourself on the mirror. Move your body, not for punishment, but for pleasure. Stretch in your living room. Dance barefoot. Take long showers and treat your body like a temple, not a task. Jung taught that the body holds parts of the unconscious mind. So when you move with presence and care, you begin to heal more than just your muscles. You release old beliefs stored in the body. You start to belong in your own skin. 5. Prepare for the return of love, but from wholeness. This one is important. Living alone doesn't mean you've sworn off love. It just means you've stopped using it as a substitute for self-connection. So when love returns, if it does, it will be an addition, not a rescue mission. It will come because you're full, not empty. Because you want to share, not escape. In Jungian terms, this is the sacred union, not just between you and another person, but between your inner masculine and feminine, the balanced psyche, the empowered woman. You'll no longer fall for the chase, the fantasy, the drama. You'll wait for real, and if it never comes, you'll still be whole, because you already are. So no, living alone is not a weakness. It's a masterclass in emotional sovereignty. It's a reclamation of your life, your voice, your power. The work you're doing now, by showing up for yourself, by feeling your feelings, by building a life you don't need to escape, is the deepest spiritual work there is. It's not glamorous. It's not always pretty, but it is sacred. And one day, when someone asks you, how did you become so grounded, so confident, so whole, you'll smile. And you'll say, I spent time with myself, and I finally learned how to love her. So here you are, still standing, still breathing, still rising. You've walked through the discomfort, the silence, the searching. You've faced the myths they told you, the ones that said a woman's value is in who she belongs to, who claims her, who stands beside her. And now you see what they forgot to mention. A woman who walks alone is not lost. She is walking herself home. There is a power that lives in you now, quiet, grounded, and unshakable. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't need applause. But it radiates from the way you carry yourself. From the way you no longer beg for space, you take it. From the way you no longer chase love, you embody it. This is the transformation. This is the return to your true self. Carl Jung said, a privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And maybe no one told you this before, but the journey of becoming doesn't always begin with partnership. It begins in solitude. It begins in the moment you say, I am enough, even now, especially now. You begin to realize something sacred, that this aloneness was never emptiness. It was an invitation to shed what no longer fits, to outgrow the roles that kept you small, to reclaim the parts of yourself you once abandoned just to be loved. And piece by piece, you return to yourself. Not because someone else finally saw your worth, but because you did. That is the miracle. That is the healing. That is the revolution. And here's the beautiful, wild, soul-shaking truth. You never needed to be chosen to be valuable. You are already chosen by life, by God, by your own soul. And now you are choosing you. So live boldly. Speak your truth even if your voice shakes. Make your home a sanctuary. Buy the flowers for yourself. Dress like your spirit, not like someone else's preference. Take yourself to dinner. Celebrate your wins out loud. And when the night comes and the world goes quiet, wrap your arms around yourself and say, I am proud of the woman I am becoming. Because this is no longer a story of lack. This is a story of liberation. You are not waiting. You are living. You are not behind. You are becoming. You are not alone. You are in alignment. And yes, if one day love returns to your life, let it find you whole. Let it find you joyful. Let it find you in your truth, not hidden, not apologizing, not shrinking to fit. And if love doesn't come in the way the world expects, let it come in other ways. In the way you love your mornings. In the way you hold space for your friends. In the way you dream boldly, move freely, and give thanks for a life that is yours. Because in the end, the most important love story isn't the one you have with another person. It's the one you write with your own soul. So if you are a woman who lives alone, know this. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are not unfinished. You are a masterpiece in progress. A legend in the making. A mirror of what happens when a woman reclaims her power, her peace, and her purpose. This path is not for the faint of heart, but it is for the brave. It is for the awake. It is for the woman who is done waiting to be loved and is ready to live as love. So here is your final truth. You are not just living alone. You are living in alignment with the deepest parts of your being. And that is the most powerful thing a woman can do. If this message found you today, if something inside you softened, awakened, or came home, leave a comment below and say, I choose myself and I am not alone. Because even in your solitude, you are part of something bigger. You are part of a movement of women who are no longer afraid to walk alone, because they finally know who they are. And if you ever forget, come back to this video. Listen again. And remember, you are never missing anything. You are only missing yourself. But now, you're here. And that changes everything.